This is an impromptu live from Toronto. So I'm here. I don't know how many of you watching know that I'm here and visiting Canada during the good weather. I'm here in Toronto's biggest park called High Park. So yeah, I've tried to find the really most quiet spot, where there's no noise, no one around. It's a Friday, so most people are in the grind of nine to five. And I'm in a soccer field as well, as you can see the nets behind me. So I'm gonna wait because people are not here yet. It's kind of a random live today. I'm using a really old crappy phone, so I'm not sure how good the quality will be. Today's video I'm going to be talking how you can make the move to Brazil a reality, which it's not exactly the easiest thing, and it's hard to find really accurate information these days. So I'm going to try to do my best to talk about all of the things that people will need to know in order to make the move to Brazil. It's not exactly a cakewalk, but there's things that you need to know before you do go to Brazil. Now, I'm gonna basically talk about why I decided to move there. A lot of you probably already know, if you already know me. Sorry if the camera's also wobbly. I'm holding a tripod. But a lot of you probably know why I've already moved to Brazil. There's many reasons, but my basic reasons were the quality of life for me personally is a lot better. I love the beaches. I like the very good warm weather, the people, the women for relationship things like that. What's up, Charles? Yeah, it's definitely needed, this topic. That's why I decided to do a live today. I haven't done a live in a couple of months. Sorry, I didn't see it. Okay. If you guys have any questions, you can leave them. Might not get them right away. I'm just gonna go on rambling about different things about what you need to know to get to Brazil. And there's obviously going to be two types of ways of being in Brazil. Some people want to be there for 6 months, and some people want to be back home for 6 months. Some people want to just get there and stay there, like me. So my reasons, yeah, like I mentioned, quality of life, the people, culture, I find a little bit more open, actually a lot more open than Canada, maybe even the US. The women are just more open, so relationships are better. I'm with somebody now, but it's a good relationship, Food, cost of living is just so much better, especially if you're using your own, your local, your home funds, like dollar. Doesn't matter if it's Canadian dollars or American dollars, you're still going to have a better quality of life. If you're a British citizen and you go to Brazil, even better. So there's a lot of things that you need to know. Everybody has their own reasons, Another reason of mine was I'm not going to be spending the rest of my life on the hamster wheel. I made certain adjustments in my life in order to have the right amount of funds to make my life in Brazil comfortable. You also have to have ways to make money, and I'll get to that. Now, reasons why you guys might want to go might be the same as mine. You might even have just one reason. Maybe you live in the northern hemisphere of the northern part of the United States, and you don't get good weather. It's miserable winters. I know guys who are from Chicago, New York, whatever, and it's miserable as hell. So that's one big reason for me too, like I mentioned. Now, making the move to Brazil is a big decision. Moving anywhere really out of your home country, especially if you've never traveled or you've never been anywhere else, is even more complicated because you don't have that experience, making the hurdle. Now, I always suggest, no matter what, even if you've been to other countries, even if you've been to other South American countries, visit Brazil first if you're thinking of making the move. Because what tends to happen, and I've heard this, I don't know guys personally, but I've heard this, they get there and they end up thinking, it's very difficult, the language, cultural differences end up being a problem. So there's a lot of things that could, shock you. You'll get the culture shock, even if you've traveled to other countries, because not knowing a place, one country from the other is completely different, Even Canada to the U.S., there are certain cultural differences that you're going to notice between Canada and America. We're very similar, but still there's some differences. State to state, it varies. Same thing in Brazil. State to state varies. Do you want to live in the south of Brazil? Very different from, northeast Brazil or even Rio or São Paulo. It's a spectrum of differences culturally in each country. Okay, so you want to go there, and I would suggest 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. You may not get the feel of the full culture, but you'll definitely feel the inertia of visiting a new place. But definitely go and visit first before you decide to make the big move. I always recommend that. Oi, Julfa Vibes. Welcome to the live from Canada. Yeah, so that is definitely a key thing. Go visit, because if you decide to make the move and never have been to Brazil, you may have a culture shock. You may adapt. You don't know, and you don't want to do a full move where you're permanently there, and then if you decide not to be there, you got to move all your crap back or whatever you decide to do. Okay. Let me just ask you: is the sound okay? Can people hear me? Whoever's in the room, just let me know if the sound is okay. I'm using a better headphones. If you can let me know if you can hear me. All right, awesome. Thanks, New Wave Brazil. Yeah, so get that out of the way. Visit Brazil. I would suggest Rio, because it kind of has the mix of different, cultures there. What's up, Jonathan DT? Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the live from South Africa. Jill Five says he personally didn't feel much culture shock. Yeah, I mean, it depends on person to person. I always just say visit first before you decide to make that move, only because you don't want to have the regret later and have the pain in the ass of having to go all the way back, set yourself at find an apartment and all these things. It really is annoying. You could do the 6 months. That would work. There are people who want to do the 6 months anyways, half the year in their home country and half the year in Brazil for various reasons. They might already have a family. Maybe they have kids. Maybe they just don't want to give up their home. Maybe they want to give up their health care, benefits, retirement, whatever. There's a lot of different reasons why some people want to do 6 months away and 6 months in the US. Also, the biggest reason may be because they're unable to stay legally in Brazil for more than 6 months. Getting like residency and all that stuff, there's a lot of red tape. So there's that element. It's just easier for somebody to stay 6 months or less than 6 months or whatever, because you have 6 months of a calendar year to be in Brazil. One other thing, they're going to be pushing back the tourist visa a little bit. I don't know if it's like January, or if anybody knows in the chat, just let me know. But I heard that it's not going to be starting in October, so that's good to know, because that was actually out of people weren't using that for the last couple of years. It was taken away, but it's coming back. Other thing you want to know before you make the move, you want to know where you're going to go. You have to decide which part of the country you're going to live at. Most people tend to go to like São Paulo, Rio. That seems to be the main, main cities that people go to. I would suggest go to Rio, like I mentioned, or São Paulo. You'll get a good feeling of the country. Other important thing to know is that you need to have a good amount of money. Like I would suggest, if you're going to stay, there's a lot of different factors when it comes to having enough money. Are you working remotely? If you work remotely, you'll have no problems. If you have, the internet has actually improved over the years in Brazil, so there's no issues with that. If you're, like I said, if you work for a company, you could also apply for a nomad visa if you should choose, if your company allows it. If you want to work in Brazil, there's the option of being an English teacher. I did that for a few years. I still do it kind of off and on. I like it, but it's just I'm trying to dedicate more of my time to YouTube and things like that. If you have investments back home and you're making money off that, you probably will do okay in Brazil. The cost of living is much lower. You just want to be able to have enough money that, even if it's just going to be for six, oh, it's getting windy. Even if you're just going to be 6 months of the year, you're going to have to figure out what finances works for you. You know, financially, it's going to be very important. I keep getting these damn messages on WhatsApp. Probably should have deactivated that. Yeah, it's very important to have a concrete financial system. Like me personally, I wanted to get out of the rat race. Okay, I made it happen. You know, I made it proper investments. I worked online. I'm doing YouTube. There's a lot of different ways to make money. A lot of people do what do you call it? Affiliate marketing. It's not for everybody, but if you can get it to work, you'd be golden. You know. Like I said, I wanted to get away from the 9 to 5 rat race crap. I just, you know, getting a bit older. I'm not old, but as you get older, you want to enjoy life more, you know. And in order to do that, you have to be free of get away from the system. You know, it's just so many people stuck here. Like, I could go on about how bad this country here in Canada is, why so many people stuck in the system. So I got the hell out of that. I just said, what's the best country that I can live and be happy and never have to be in the winter, you know, don't have to put all this clothes on and things like that. And Brazil is always kept coming up. You know, I went there over the years. My first time there was 11 years ago, and I fell in love with the place. You know, I think a lot of you guys know that feeling too, if you've been to Brazil and spent any amount of time there. So finances, you really got to get those in order to be able to sustain yourself in Brazil. What else could I say about it? You just have to have good planning. I mean, it's not the easiest thing. A lot of people find it difficult to relocate, you know, leaving their home country. They don't want to leave family. So that's also a very difficult decision to make. You've got to decide, what are you going to give up in order to be happier whatever city you're going to go to in Brazil. You have to make those decisions. They're very difficult. That's why I always say, check it out first. You know, I'm not going to make this live too long, but I wanted to drop those out, you know, the steps of how to get there. I would say, if you don't have a lot of money and you can take some time off and go and see if it's going to be right for you, go for a month. Maybe if you can go for a few months, you could probably teach English part-time at some school. If you're a native speaker, you should be all right. You know, you don't make as much money in the schools. I would suggest doing private lessons. Personally, I found that I made way more money that way. Yeah, you're kind of giving up quite a bit if you decide to move there full-time. Like, I gave up healthcare here. I gave up basically my healthcare, which is OHIP. We have a universal healthcare here. I gave up seeing family that I'm really close to here. That was tough, but that's why I make these visits. I try to get here once a year. I mean, you got to make sacrifices. There's nothing that, you know, you just got to do it. Other thing that a lot of people get worried about is the language. Now, I beat a dead horse about this, because I say, if you want to make the move to Brazil, you're going to have to learn some of the language. It's just, even if you're going to be there, you know, 1 to 6 months of the year, you just got to know some of it. The language is very key. Let's see, I got a message here. Fred Ford, appreciate your videos. What's the process to rent an apartment that's not an Airbnb? So that's a great question, actually. I got residency, so for me, it's a hell of a lot easier to rent an apartment, because they do background checks, they do financial checks, they do a lot of different things, right? You got to have a CPF, which is it's kind of like having your, in Canada, we call it the SIN number, or tax registry. It's a tax registry number in Brazil, and even a foreigner can get it. I have a video about that. I'll post a link in the bottom that might help some people. How to get the process of how to get a CPF. That you need for sure as well, if you're going to spend large periods of time in Brazil. And now with the apartment rentals, if you were to get documents, it'll be a lot easier. Now, if you don't have documentation, you still need the CPF. The CPF, no matter what, if you're going to plan to rent an apartment or stay in periods of time, get that. I can't say that enough. Get the CPF. Now, there are places you can rent apartments off of Airbnb. Some websites include like OLX, period, dot br. I'll put the links of all these things, and then, at the end. You can go to Quinta Andar, which basically means fifth floor. It's like a Brazilian Airbnb thing, but it's different. I don't know how to explain it. You can find all kinds of apartments online that people will rent off the system thingy, as I like to say, where you don't have to go through Airbnb. It's a little bit higher risk because you don't have the security that Airbnb provides, or the security that a hotel provides. There's all kinds of different pitfalls to that, but it is possible. I've seen Brazilians who put their place up for rent, even whether they usually call it temporário or temporary for temporary rentals. Where they don't require you to go through background checks, and they don't require all these, different hoops that you have to jump into. It's not as common, Airbnb, because I think that they can jack the price up a lot. But on the other flip side, they can avoid the fees if you do it on like a regular website or something. Let me see. Hope that answers your question, Fred Ford. True Life says, thank you for the information, no problem. I can answer whatever questions so long. I pretty much know, every step that you should know about when you're moving to Brazil. Could you compare Rio and Porto Alegre, please? Rio is a thing of its own. It's got a lot of character. Not to say Porto Alegre doesn't have character. It's got a different vibe. It's got the party vibe. It's got the nightlife vibe. You got everything basically in Rio. Porto Alegre is a way more chill city. I wouldn't find that it's a party town. It's not a beach city. I prefer Rio way more than Porto Alegre. I did enjoy Porto Alegre, but I can't recommend it for people who want to have the nightlife, and meeting girls is probably a bit better in Rio as well. In Porto Alegre, there's mainly, not trying to be racist or anything, but there's mainly like white people, like white girls, whatever. If that's your thing, then it's okay. But Rio has a mix of cultures, and if you like whatever, you can find it there. I say that to people all the time, whatever you're looking for in Rio, you will find it. So I would say Rio is a lot more options for everything. Rio is the place. Rio is still number one for me for activities, tourism, beaches, food. It's just crazy. Not to say that other cities in Brazil, because I haven't been to the north yet, aren't good cities to visit, but still Rio is probably going to be the place to go, the place to be. True Life, can you live off renting 2-bedroom apartments? I have some apartments to buy in rental, in Natal. You can, actually. It really depends, though. Are you going to rent all year, or are you going to rent like temporary? I think you could make money. You'd want to have the place in a touristy area, and high tourism generally isn't like in the Northeast is like January, like Carnival time, January, February. I don't know the other months that is really popular to visit those places, but you could definitely make money off those. I don't know, you won't become rich, I don't think, but you'd be okay, I think, especially if you're renting to gringos. What are the things that are going to be needed in order to make the move? Like I said, there's two different ways to look at it. I mean, if you're making the move like I did, where I gave up everything, I sold everything, I just basically brought what I needed, that takes a little bit more planning, because you want to find a solid place. You got to make sure you have the right amount of money coming in. Learn some Portuguese. I still say go and visit the place before you make the move. I think that's very key. You want to do research about the do's and don'ts of living in Brazil. Like, as a foreigner, you may not know cultural things, cultural differences. There's a lot. Even today, I have things I don't like about Brazil, but I tend to think that there's way more positives about Brazil than my home country. The only thing that I can see in Canada for me is that the safety is very good here still. I find that I can walk down the street with a phone and I have no issues. I could have money out and no issues. It's a lot more beggars and things like that going on. There's a lot more homeless here probably because of the last 3 years. The very first time, actually, I just took we have something called the GO train here, which is a main train that takes you out to other cities in the province. And this is the very first time I've ever had someone ask me for change. That's a bad sign. So not to say Brazil doesn't have that stuff, because it totally does, but I've never seen that here in Canada. Just a side note. Sean asks, how are the mountainous towns in Rio, i.e. Petropolis, are they safe? Actually, Petropolis, I was just there in July. Funny that you asked that. Petropolis I really enjoyed it. I don't think that I'd want to live there because it gets really, really chilly at some points of the year. But it's actually, statistically, it's the safest city in the state of Rio de Janeiro. I didn't have issues walking down the street with a cell phone. It kind of felt like the safety of a North American, like Toronto here. Per capita, it's got the least amount of crime. So definitely worth checking out. I would visit Petropolis. I'm gonna have a video posted soon of my vlog there, so stay tuned for that. Petropolis was fun. I would suggest go 2 to 3 days. 3 days max, you'd be okay. Check it out. What's needed to open a Brazilian bank account? That's where it gets complicated. Brazil bank account, I'll share my story, how I got a Brazil bank account, because it's kind of catch-22 for me. When I was doing my residency application, you need a Brazilian bank account, and I had to have a shared account with my girlfriend. So it was really weird because they were kind of like, oh, you need this document in order to open a bank account, but you can't get that document without opening a bank account. So catch-22, it was really, really irritating. But the federal police actually said that when you're in a process of like residency, they can open you an account. Now, as for not applying for residency and not getting all those documents, I think it's still possible to open a bank account. I just think it's a little bit more complicated. I've never done it, so I can't really say. I know that it is possible. If I can figure it out, I will let you guys know. But yeah, it's pretty complicated, but it is possible. I know I had a friend of mine who opened one, but they tend to give you trouble if you're not going to be there for long periods of time, I think. So I do know a CPF is needed. So there you go. A CPF is like used for everything. It's just your tax registry number that in the country. So that's important. Making the move to Brazil. One other thing you want to make sure is transferring money. That can be tricky too, because you need money from your account back home to use in Brazil. And that's why I believe that you can open a bank account, because I think that, you could use that if you're able to get a bank account. There's also, what's it called? Western Union. I mean, for a fee, you got to pay a fee to transfer money. That's why I suggest bring as much as you can. And I believe the limit to enter Brazil is 10,000 reais, which is approximately, I don't know what the exchange rate is now. I would guess it's like $2,000, something like that. I don't know. If you have the money, bring as much as you can. If you're not sure how you're going to transfer money, you could always ask people like me, or if you know any other foreigners, if you need to transfer some money and whatever, people that have a bank account. So long as it's not a large sum that looks kind of sketchy, that works too. You can use the Brazilian bank machines or inside the bank using your bank card back home, but they charge a big fee. I had a friend that told me that it was just ridiculous, the fee. I don't remember what it was, but you will pay big for it. Roxy Baker asks, approximately how much income do you need if you're living in Brazil when owning a home? Owning a home, if you're paying, just to sort of reinforce that question or reinforce my answer, owning a home in Brazil is going to be definitely affordable for those who are unable to buy a home here in Canada or in the United States. If you've got money, you'll find something good for you to buy there. Back to your question, how much income would you say that you need? I don't know how much house taxes are and all that stuff, but from what I understand, a good income in Rio de Janeiro would be between 3,000 and 5,000 reais, or 3,000, 6,000 reais, which is approximately like, just under $1,000 US. The cost of living is obviously much better when you're using dollars. So I hope that helps, because I really don't know how much it is to, like, for taxes on the house, which is called IPTU, I think, in Brazil, which you have to pay monthly, property tax or whatever it's called. Sean, thanks. How long are you in Toronto for? I used to live in Parkdale, King Jameson. Yeah, I'll be here another just under 2 weeks. I've been here about 2 weeks now. I'm visiting family, visiting friends, getting some stuff done. I actually lived in the Parkdale High Park area. I lived on Dundas and Roncesvalles, around there. You probably know where that area is. It's not that far from Jameson and whatnot. Been in this area for many years. I'm currently in High Park, as you probably know where that is too, the biggest park in Toronto. Just to give you an idea of another reason why I got the hell out of here, the cost of living here is just astronomical in comparison to other parts of the world. It's so ridiculous. Rentals, for example, a 2-bedroom here in Toronto goes for like 2,500 Canadian and up, depending on the neighborhood. I've seen rentals for $3,300 for a 2-bedroom in, like, Midtown or whatever. It's just, I don't know, man. And cost, and people aren't making any money here. People aren't getting raises. The rich are okay, but even them, they're feeling it. People who have money and have a good income, they're feeling it. Let's see here. Zone Zip asks, how much is healthcare? Do you need private insurance? Healthcare is much cheaper in Brazil, especially if you're paying in dollar. I know it's going to sound like a broken record, but it really is true. Dental work, for example, is much, much cheaper. So I always look at it this way. Whatever you're paying in the US or Canada, just put that as in, like, let's say you're paying $2,000 for a, what do you call it? A canal, root canal, okay? Root canal. Let's say you're getting a root canal done. You pay 2,000 US. I'm just throwing up a number. I don't actually know how much it costs. $2,000. It would be 2,000 reais, let's say, or just under. Dental work is cheaper in Brazil, so that's an indicator. Let's just say it's 2,000 reais for the same thing. What is that in dollar? That's like $300 or $400, right? I don't know what the exchange rate is today. You're already saving a ton of money. You would never, and the service is just as good. Healthcare, if you're paying whatever in Brazil, or dental work or whatever, it's as good as it's done here. The fallacy is that, healthcare is much better here or whatever. Okay, maybe in certain places or whatever, but you can find a good hospital, you can find a good dentist, you can find those things in Brazil. I mean, there's probably a lot more options here, but there's still good quality places there, and you're going to save a hell of a lot more money. I've seen it. I did a deviated septum surgery there. Sure, I had some of it covered by a health plan that I have. And getting back to your other thing, a healthcare plan, depending on your age, of course, is still much cheaper. You're going to pay probably a fraction of the cost. So don't worry about healthcare coverage if you think you're going to pay through the nose. You're not going to pay through the nose. You really aren't. So there's that aspect of it. I find that my health has improved mentally and physically since I've moved to Brazil, because I've got temperate climate, I got the beaches, I got fresh fruit and vegetables all over the place for cheap, so I'm eating better. I'm able to do exercise pretty much any day I want because the weather's good. Whereas when winter comes here, you got to go to a gym, you got to go somewhere like that, which is fine, but I like doing stuff outdoors most of the time. So my health improved because of those factors as well, right? It was constantly, winter time is a drag here. I don't know how many of you guys in the chat are from a cold place in America or around the world. It's brutal, man. It's brutal, and it drags on here. Brazil, especially like the state of Rio, the weather's just generally perfect all the time. Sure, you're gonna get rainy days, okay, whatever, but I mean, immaculate for me personally. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, Sean says cost of living in Toronto is ridiculous. That goes double for me. It's ridiculous, guys. Other things that you need to know about moving to Brazil. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. How much stuff are you going to need there? You really don't need that much stuff, guys. I mean, because you don't want to have to carry so much luggage. I'll give you my example. When I went there, I brought two larger luggage that I, you know, basically, what do you call it? I'm thinking in Portuguese right now. Baggage check. I checked two big bags, and then I had two carry-ons, so like a backpack and whatever. It was all pretty much stuff I needed and stuff I needed to organize through. But most of the stuff that I owned, I got rid of, I donated, I sold, stuff like that. You just need the essentials. You just need some clothing. You can buy clothing there. You know, certain brand names. If you like brand name stuff, maybe bring it with you. You can find pretty much anything that you need in Brazil. I mean, and probably cheaper. You know, absolutely cheaper. Like if you like Nike and all that stuff, they have it. It's going to be cheaper for you because you're paying in dollar or whatever currency. If you're using euros, you know. Sure, if you don't have as strong of a currency, if you're from another country that obviously the currency is not great, maybe bring other stuff that you don't want to buy in Brazil. Sure. Yeah, this trip round, I still had stuff here in Canada, but I got rid of more stuff. I donated some more of my winter clothes. I wasn't sure if I'd be coming here in winter, but probably never again. Just don't bring tons of stuff, you know. Yeah, you won't need all of it, especially if you're going to only be in Brazil like temporary, 1 month, 2 months. You really don't need that much stuff. Trust me. Fred Ford asks, is buying a car necessary? What does car insurance cost? Buying a car in Rio is not necessary almost pretty much at all. Rio has a great metro system. Buses like crazy if you're okay with taking bus. Uber is very cheap if you don't mind using Uber service. I would avoid taxis because taxis tend to cost way more than Uber. In the city of Rio, you do not need to buy a car. You do not need to own a car. I would say if you live in like a rural town in the state of Rio or any other place within Brazil, maybe consider buying a car. Yeah, but in Rio, my personal thing is you don't need a car. Buses everywhere, Uber everywhere, the subway if you're in the southern part of Rio. Car insurance it's for the average Brazilian, it's probably pricey. Gas also is pricey, but if you're, like I said, if you're paying in your local currency and it's much stronger than the real, you'll be fine. It won't make a big dent in your life, you know. I don't know what the average cost is. I just know that a lot of people complain about it in Brazil, so I overhear it. So I don't have exact number on that, but I know gas is like basically whatever you're paying in your city right now. Just don't even convert it. Just put the same number, but in their currency, and just think of the cost. That's how I always think, because everything is cost adjusted, right? They try to make it the same price that it would be in most countries. Yeah. Sean, I'll be back in Rio in 2 weeks. Nice, me too. Hoping to move there eventually. Any other good areas to consider living besides Ipanema or Leblon? If you can afford it, I would suggest Barra da Tijuca. It's one of my favorite neighborhoods. It's more the east zone of the city. I would say it's like 20-minute subway ride from Copacabana. It's a great beach. It's much safer than, you know, if you go to, I'm less inclined to go to Copa these days. I prefer Ipanema, Leblon, and Barra. But still check out Copa if it's going to be your first time. You'll enjoy it, and it's going to be a good taste of, you know, Rio beach life, you know. But for me, when I like a quieter beach, I go to Barra da Tijuca, and Leblon, Ipanema. So Barra's a nice neighborhood. Botafogo's a pretty nice neighborhood. The beach is not as great. Not many people go on the beach there, but the neighborhood's pretty nice. Flamengo is a nice neighborhood, and it's still considered the south zone of Rio. Kind of like it's less expensive than Copa and Ipanema and Leblon. Botafogo and Flamengo. I think they're kind of underrated. I like them. I think Botafogo has a really good, a nice vibe to it at nighttime for like bars and restaurants. It really has a nice vibe. I went there countless times. It's worth checking out if you've not been there. So yeah, definitely check out Baja if you've never been there. The east part of the city. It's a kind of massive beach, stretches miles. How much cash do they allow you to bring to Brazil at any given time? I believe that it's 10,000 reais, but don't quote me on it. I just believe, because coming to Canada, I think you can only have $10,000 or $20,000, I believe. So don't quote me on it. I'm going to try and get that number. I'm going to go to visit a Brazilian exchange place here, and I'll ask them. They should know. But I would say the safe bet is keep it under 10,000 reais. But I'll try and write that in the comments if I find out. So keep posted on the comments. Yeah, it's good to have cash in Brazil. That's a good point, actually. If you don't like using card all the time, which I don't, because a lot of places don't accept it. A lot of these days, these vendors have these machines now, but I mean, you got to be careful from fraud too, right? So if you're just buying stuff on the beach and whatnot, try to use cash. Try to have money on you. It's just better. You don't want to have to deal with credit card fraud and crap like that while you're overseas, and it's just a headache. So I would recommend if you're staying 2 weeks to a month in Rio or whatever, maybe bring like 500 reais, have it just to buy little things on the beach and stuff. It's good to have. What else am I missing? Steps to go to Brazil. Just always have a plan. Just plan it well, like I did. You know, I was always planning on moving there, but when 2020 crap hit, it kind of pushed me to accelerate my plans. But yeah, make sure you have financial security, healthcare plan if you're planning on staying long term, find a decent apartment, try and make contacts if you have some friends there, if you know some gringos that are going there that can help you out. That it really, really helps a lot when you have a contact. If it's going to be your first time, but you really do want to move out of your country and you're thinking maybe Brazil, maybe Colombia, maybe Mexico, I can't recommend it enough. Just try it out first. Go down. I know airline tickets are costly these days, but it's better to know before you make the huge jump. You know, make the leap to a big change in your life. You know, I just find for me, it was a no-brainer. You know, don't look back. Even when I come here, it reinforces every time. You know, everyone's sort of trapped in that mundane life, and it's just I like adventure. You know, Brazil has the adventure that I'm looking for. I go to another city, it's a completely different place. I go into a favela, it's a completely different situation. You know, so definitely so many more options for me to discover Brazil. One day I'm going to go to other countries around Brazil, maybe expand. Who knows? Anybody else have any questions before I end the live? I can't think of what other things that you want to be prepared for before you go to Brazil. Electronics, if you're going to be going there for long term or whatever, make sure you bring whatever. Don't bring a ton of phones because it might look like that you're going to try and sell them and they might hit you with a big tax. But if you need certain electronics and if you're going to be a YouTuber, or if you just want to have a good camera or whatever, a good phone, make sure you buy it in your home country. Brazil is just really, really expensive when it comes to electronics. That's the one thing that your currency will not help you with. It just won't. They get hit with import taxes. They get hit. It's just ridiculous. So any electronics you want to buy it at home. Symbolic says, don't forget to find a good Korean restaurant before you move. Yes. Probably Sao Paulo has those. I'm going to check that out when I go to Sao Paulo. It's hard to find good ethnic food. Yeah, Japanese food, Sao Paulo definitely has it. Yeah, Rio does not have too many options when it comes to foods from around the world. They have some, but it's just... I found a good Indian restaurant in Lapa. It was very authentic, so I would definitely check that place out if you like spicy Indian food. What else here? Toronto versus Rio in terms of friendliness. Rio much friendlier. That goes without saying. Don't get me wrong. There are friendly people here. Canadians are generally friendly. The one thing that I don't like about Canadian culture is the fact that they're passive aggressive. That really annoys the hell out of me. I'd rather the person tell me directly to my face what they think rather than beat around the bush kind of bullshit. Brazilians are very straight up when it comes to that. A person from Rio will definitely tell you if you're annoying them or whatever, they will tell you. So I like the straightforwardness much better. Appreciate the great info. Thanks, Fred. What do you think of Saquarema? I have not been to Saquarema. I've been past Saquarema, but I haven't been there. I've been to like Búzios. I've been to Arraial do Cabo. I've been to Cabo Frio. I've been to some towns that I found really boring in the state of Rio, but they were pretty chill. Maybe I'll check out Saquarema eventually, but so I can't say. But I've heard people said that they like it. So it's like one of those small towns that's kind of on the beach. Yeah, so I'm gonna end the live now. I'm gonna go grab some to eat, maybe Korean food. And but if you guys have any questions before I go, I will be more than happy to answer. Symbolic says, find a good building that doesn't lose electricity in the middle of a heat wave. Actually, in some places, there's a lot of brownouts. Like in the really poorer neighborhoods, there tends to be a lot of power outages because it's just, I don't know what it is. It could be the system. I have no idea. I lived in a town 10 years ago, north part of the city, and we had brownouts on a regular basis. And not just brownouts, the water would be shut off because they would just reach a certain point where I guess people were using too much. I have no idea. And they would shut it off. You'd have to, it's a little bit of embarrassment, but you'd have to fill the buckets, like these large garbage bins, with water so you could take a bath from that. I was like, all right, now you're really in a situation. Believe it or not, that's a true story. I'll never forget that, man. Like power outages, but also water outages. It was crazy. And the internet was really shitty back then. They've made improvements. I think the Wi-Fi is almost about the standards of Canada and US. I would say it's just as good. Stephen Bachelor, sorry if I'm reading your name wrong. Bachelor, right? Still looking for a good spot, but leaning heavy on Baja. Yeah, Baja is awesome. It's one of my favorite beaches, if not my favorite beach in the city of Rio. Symbolic says, my mom has that happening occasionally. Yeah, it's annoying. It's really annoying. Yeah, I guess worst case scenario is you can go to the beach and have a bath there, but it's salt water, so that doesn't work. In the south part of the city, they don't really have that problem, like where the quote-unquote rich areas, they don't have those issues because I guess a lot of people pay into it and they don't want those unhappy old rich people complaining. So I really appreciate that you guys came into the live. I've been on now 43 minutes, so it's been a good live. I'm glad. If there's any stuff that I'm missing about making the move to Brazil, it really is just, good planning. Think about things that maybe you don't, that you're not thinking of at the moment, but always just write things down, plan. There's all kinds of little things, yeah, it's just make sure you have documents that you'll probably need if you want to end up staying there for long periods of time, like your actual birth certificate. That helps. Learn some Portuguese. I don't know. Get ready for an adventure. I mean, even if it's just visiting, it's still worth the visit. In my opinion. So yeah, Zone Sip says thank you so much. My pleasure. Leave some comments below if you have any questions. I'll also write some stuff if I have anything that comes to my mind. But I pretty much said everything. You just gotta plan it, and see if you like it. Go try it out first because it's a pain in the ass when you go somewhere and you've already made the leap and then coming back and doing all that stuff. It's crazy. I've done that, so I know how it is. Hello from Brazil, João Paulo. Boa tarde. Yeah. Sorry, João Paulo. I don't know if you watched the whole chat, but I'm about to go. But check it out. There's a lot of information in this live. If I'm missing something, I'm going to write it in. And yeah. it's nice to do it live in my home country. So we'll catch you guys in the next live. And João was asking, João VM Oliveira. As for medical insurance, I'll answer this last one. Make sure you might have, oh, okay, so he's making a point. Might have a SUS card, Sistema Único de Saúde. Yeah, that's kind of like the OHIP here, you know, the health care that we have in Canada. It is an open door system that works nationally. Yeah, but SUS is not that great. Be honest, João. It's long wait lines. I went with someone to a hospital to make a long story short, and these public hospitals are terrible. The government does not put enough money into these hospitals. Canada has a way better universal health care than Brazil does. It's got a lot to be desired for sure. But it does, I mean, it's better than nothing. If you're in an emergency or whatever, it's better than nothing. Next time, talk about medical insurance. Yeah, I don't know. I have a plan there, but it's through my girlfriend. So I don't really have firsthand knowledge of like getting it, but I maybe I could do a video talking about that. I don't know. We'll see. In your opinion, what is the best choice for insurance? I don't know. I mean, I'm using through my girlfriend's company, so I don't know. It's still cheaper for a foreigner, especially if you're paying in your currency, like I mentioned earlier. So it's not going to be as expensive as like travel insurance here or whatever for other foreigners. João Paulo, my English is horrible. Haha, that is a football camp. Yeah, it's a football field here. Still nice weather here, guys. I mean, the weather is chilly, but it's still good. It's good weather. I use Amex when traveling. Yeah, it's probably good. I mean, if you can get insurance from your home country in health insurance and use it in Brazil, even better. You know, why not use that? So thanks again for watching, guys. I'm gonna end it there. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the live. If you're just getting in late, check it out from the beginning, and you'll get some good pointers if you're somebody who's thinking of going to Brazil long term or whatever, even if it's 1 to 6 months. You know. Take care, Stephen. My MRI, I'll just read these last comments. My MRI this week was smooth, but it took 7 months to get an appointment. Yeah, that's with the specialist who got me the MRI appointment. Canada's healthcare has noticeably changed for the worse. I have to agree. I remember 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't have to wait so long. I think that has to do with the influx of people, a lot of immigration coming in, and it's just the system can't handle it. I mean, that it is what it is. Yeah, they do their best. It's still, I mean, there's good doctors here. What can you do? Just try not to get sick, I guess. Easier said than done. Didn't know using my home insurance was an option. Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't comment on insurance and stuff, and I don't want to give the wrong information. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you in the next live or the next video. I will have a video coming soon about Petropolis, and it's going to be a vlog video, and yeah, Petropolis was fun. So we'll catch you guys in the next live. Thanks for watching. Any questions, comments, leave it in the description below, and I will definitely get back to you on it. Cheers, and take care wherever you are. Ciao.